Hi guys! Welcome back to my channel. I have 4 really easy and affordable Easter DIY decor ideas for you in this video, and you can add them to your existing spring decor to make your space feel more festive. They were all really fun to create, so make sure to stay tuned for the rest of the video and give it a thumbs up if you enjoy it. And go check out the video I posted last week if you want even more ideas on how to decorate for spring. Also, don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more home decor and DIY projects. Now let's get started. For the first DIY, I created an Easter egg door hanging. I bought a white foam board and 2 different ribbons from the dollar store for this project. I also used some acrylic paint and jute rope that I had in my craft stash. To create this large Easter egg door hanging, I started by outlining an egg shape on the foam board with my pencil. Then I used my X-Acto knife to cut the egg out of the foam. You don't have to worry about pencil marks or imperfect edges from your cuts, since they're all going to be covered in the next steps. Then I used my ruler and pencil to create horizontal lines on the egg. I didn't measure the width of the stripes as they don't have to be perfect or the same size. Next, I mixed in 4 different colors and I chose to go with a blue and beige theme. For this part, make sure to pick the colors you want to use for your Easter egg door hanging piece. You can also mix more or less than 4 colors if you want to, so customize it to your taste. In the next step, I just went ahead and painted the stripes on the egg with the 4 colors that I had just mixed in no specific order. Also, I didn't care to make the lines super straight and precise because they're going to be covered with jute rope later on. This just makes the painting process so much easier and faster. When I was done painting the entire egg, I let it dry for about an hour. Once the acrylic paint colors were dry, I used some thin jute rope that I had on hand and hot glued that in pieces on the egg over the dividing lines of different colors. Adding the jute rope brings in some texture to the piece and makes it so it's not just a flat painted egg. I also glued the extra bits of jute rope on the back of the piece. After that, I went ahead and glued the same rope around the entire egg piece to cover any imperfections from our initial cuts. Then I created 2 bows using the 2 different ribbons that I had. So for the smaller bow, I used the beige checkered ribbon. I started by measuring and cutting 2 12-inch pieces and 1 10-inch piece. Next, I created a loop with one of the 12-inch pieces and the 10-inch piece and hot glued the 2 ends together. I held it in place for a few seconds until it was secure. Next, I stacked the 3 pieces, having the shorter one on top and the longer 12-inch piece on the bottom. I made sure that everything is centered, and then I bunched up the middle section and held it in place with my fingers. Then I used some twine and wrapped it around the center and made a really tight knot. Once I had the first knot, I went ahead and created a couple more knots to make sure it's secure. Then I fluffed up the ribbon and the first bow was ready. I essentially repeated the same exact process with the blue ribbon and created a bigger bow. I cut 2 16-inch pieces and 1 13-inch piece for this bow. Once I had both bows ready, I went ahead and hot glued the blue bow on the top left side of the egg. Then I glued the smaller beige bow on top of the blue one, and once again I fluffed them up so they look good. Lastly, I used a small piece of leftover jute rope and glued that to the back of the egg so that I can hang it on the door. And that completed this first Easter DIY decor. I think it turned out pretty cute and it was so easy to create. It also cost me about $3 to make this, so that's even better. In the second project, I decorated 8 Easter eggs using 2 different techniques. I picked up a 12-pack of plastic crafting Easter eggs from Michael's for this DIY. To decorate the first 4 eggs, I used some nail polish that I had at home. I poured room temperature water into a cup and then slowly added some blue and white nail polish to it. You have to make sure to add the polish really slowly so it sits on the surface of the water. Otherwise, it'll sink to the bottom of the cup and it'll go to waste. You'll see that I use a transfer pipette for the blue glitter polish. That is because no matter how slowly I poured that polish, it kept sinking to the bottom of the cup. And I think it's because it's heavier than a normal nail polish due to the glitter inside. I tried this technique and it worked, so if you run into the same issue, try using one of those. Also, try to pick a cup or a bowl that is slightly bigger than your Easter eggs, because if you have a bigger dish, again, you'll most likely be wasting extra nail polish. Anyways, once I had both my nail polish colors on the water, I used a toothpick to move them around and create a cool pattern. Then I just dipped one of the eggs in the mix and quickly pulled it out. After that, I used a toothpick to place some more with the nail polish pattern that was transferred on the egg. Next, I just set it aside to dry. Now, I didn't have proper gloves, so I ended up not using the ones I had, so my hands were pretty covered with polish after I was done. I just used some nail polish remover to get rid of the polish residue, but I highly recommend you guys wearing fitting gloves for this project. But basically, I repeated the same process with 3 more Easter eggs. I used some purple and silver nail polish for 2 of the eggs. This was kind of messy, but pretty fun. For the second technique of decorating Easter eggs, I started by mixing some pastel blue and purple acrylic colors. I then used my paintbrushes and painted 2 eggs blue and 2 more in the pastel purple color. I let them sit and dry for about 45 minutes. After the paint was dry, I used a clean paintbrush and applied some Mod Podge to the surface of each egg. I let the Mod Podge sit for about 45 seconds. Then, using my fingers, I attached some gold leaf to the surface of the egg. Letting the Mod Podge sit for a few seconds before doing this helps so that the gold leaves stick better and don't move around, since Mod Podge takes a little time to completely dry. Next, I set aside that egg to fully dry. After that, I repeated the same process with the other eggs and also some silver leaf flakes. Once everything was dry, I placed all of the decorated eggs in a glass jar, and that's it for the second project. I think they all came out really good, and I'm glad that I used 2 different techniques to create these decorated Easter eggs. They were so much fun to create. Make sure to try these tips and tricks when decorating your own Easter eggs, but don't forget to customize them to your own colors. For the third DIY, I created an Easter basket. I had a simple neutral color basket at home that I used, but you can use any kind of basket that you have on hand. I bought some faux Easter grass from the dollar store and a pack of 4 big Easter eggs from Michael's. I started by placing some of the Easter grass inside the basket and then fluffing them up. I painted the 4 Easter eggs with some pastel green and purple acrylic colors. I used a small piece of sponge instead of a paintbrush for this to give the eggs a more textured look. Then I let the paint dry completely for about an hour. Once the paint was dry, I mixed some gold and silver acrylic paint with water until the consistency was runny. Then I used a small paintbrush and dipped it in the gold color. Next, I gently tapped on the brush over the eggs to create the speckled pattern. I did the same thing with the silver color and the other 2 eggs. After that, I let them dry completely. Finally, I placed the big Easter eggs in the basket and put a lot of chocolate in there too. That was it for my DIY Easter basket, but feel free to add personalized items to the basket as well, depending on who you're gifting it to. Just make sure to have a lot of candy in there. Obviously, this was super easy to make, but it also gives you one more tip on how to decorate your Easter eggs. All in all, I love how the Easter basket turned out, but I actually ended up eating most of the chocolate later that same day. So yeah, that happened, and just a heads up if you decide to make your own Easter baskets. In the last project, I created a really simple Easter bunny banner. I bought 2 sheets of basic felt from Michael's, 1 blue and 1 beige, each for 49 cents. I printed a simple bunny outline that I found online and then used my scissors to cut it out. I placed the bunny on the felt sheet and used my black marker to trace it on. Next, I used my scissors to cut that out as well. I proceeded to repeat the same thing with 7 more bunnies. I had 4 beige and 4 blue ones when I was done. In the next step, I used my X-Acto knife and a toothpick to create 2 small holes in each bunny if you imagine where the eyes would be. Then I used a bobby pin to thread some twine rope through those holes. I did the same thing with the rest of the bunnies on the same piece of twine. After that, I measured the bunnies to be about 5 inches apart and dabbed small amounts of hot glue on the back to make sure they stay where I want them to on the twine rope. And yes, that completes this super easy and affordable Easter decor DIY. This would be perfect on a fireplace mantle, but since we don't have one, I just style it on our entertainment center. It still looks pretty cute, and I love that you can customize this however you want. Pick your own shape, design and felt color, and make your very own Easter banner. I hope that you enjoyed this video and learned new techniques, tips, and tricks on how to DIY some easy Easter decor for this year. As always, thank you for watching, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll catch you in my next video.